conscious rappers. So to my brothers and sisters who are rappers, see, you're part of a scheme, but you don't realize you are an unwitting collaborator in a scheme that is to destroy you and your future.
Let's be very clear, I ain't here to drink beer, smoke weed, shoot the breeze, and break bread with you. I'm only here to resurrect the living dead with you. Thought it was some kind of a game, I'm not playing with you. I got the Moorish warlords with Moroccan sharp swords, Ethiopians with white face camouflage, already disciplined and ready for that sabotage. You listen to Minaj? Word? You should kill yourself and everybody that you came with. Arrangements out of jurisdiction, no arraignment. My name gets mentioned through the ethers, through high frequency speakers. Certified 45, get in line. Make this revolution rap your favorite pastime. Make listening to Coon Tune your very last time. Last time he was CO and now he's gangstified. Pushing keys, catching bodies, man, somebody lied. I'd rather listen to that God noise, levitate with fly boys, organize an army, bang dead prayers. Understand I'm not a missionary, just the devil's adversary. Extraordinary, compliment the feds. And most listening are subject to conditioning. They need a hook, something snappy just to pull them in. I truly sympathize, I hope this pretty singing satisfies. Now should we get back to business then? Separating gods from the nigga men, separating chicken heads from the heroines. They tell me constantly that I should change my content. You're just too conscious, maybe you should narrow in. Rhyme more about that street life heroin. Make it amplify, glorify the hell you're in. But where the hell you been? Clearly you don't know me then. Spit flame, ethanol, Jada Pinkett set it off. I gang bang on opposition till his head is off. His arm, leg, arm nailed to a cross. You're not a mob boss, Florentini, Machiavelli. Close as you are to Italian, it's sauce and spaghetti. The flow is deadly, hip-hop jihad medley. They could tell I was a rebel the moment they met me. Gotta respect me, the 85ers wanna sex me. Occupied by the 5, still I let them sweat me. You can bet me, Phoenix if they try to dead me. And the Republic of Gorillas stood ready to wreck me. I pull verses from my spleen for the have-nots who seem caught between the rocks and the hard spots. And most listening are subject to conditioning. They need a hook, something snappy just to pull them in. I truly sympathize, I hope this pretty singing satisfies. Now should we get back to business then? I'm not the only one can tell that something's going on. We hustle harder every day and barely holding on. These big banks getting breaks that we'll be gully on. And they'll freeze your assets, keep your scullies on. The same Babylon upgraded red bottom. And he was about that revolution till the feds got him. My man Scott got 3 to 5 for a bag of weed. But be a priest and rape boys walk scot-free. I bet you thinking that I'm kidding cause I'm throwing stones. It isn't me, it's ancient Masons in my chromosomes. Impatient ancestors raging through my ribosomes. See scrolls translated through a microphone. The freedom banger, hanger, Margaret Sanger. Planned Parenthood in every hood would like to thank her. Bankers, Rockefeller, Bilderberg, Unicom, DuPont, IBM, UNICEF, and Viacom. My verbal firearm annihilate the infrastructure. Comedic lexicon, cause I don't speak the tongue of suckers. I born degrees of the royal pedigrees and leave it mean 16 in my afterbirth. Still, most listening are subject to conditioning. They need a hook, something snappy just to pull them in. Just West, not Ruby Selah.
BB488, BB Tumi, Kujitiwala, Sheila Fiani, welcome. Welcome to another edition of That Place that we all come to Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome to the battlefield. Welcome to the war zone. Welcome to Ground Zero. Welcome to the War Report with yours truly, Olàyínká. Thank you all for joining us. It's great having you all. Great day here in the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection amongst African people. Here on the front lines, beautiful day. And we are definitely going to get into business tonight with our esteemed guests. And before I bring them on, as we always do, we like to go through some of the particulars of what's happening. And that would lead me to the upcoming 18th annual African Independence Day Mayat celebration, which I know everybody's getting excited for out there. We have been indoors and sheltered in place for 2 years because of this pandemic, this COVID-19, this coronavirus. But we are back outside in the elements where Africans belong, and we will be at Malcolm X Memorial Park here in the city of Philadelphia on Saturday, August the 6th, from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. And of course, we start things off with our prelude each and every year to African Independence Day, our 5th annual Pan-African Junkanoo, which will start at 10 a.m. We're asking for everybody who would like to be a part of our Junkanoo parade that will make its way down the 52nd Street corridor in Black West Philadelphia to meet us at 52nd and Arch Streets as we will process our way down to 52nd and Pine Streets and Malcolm X Park, the site of the 18th annual African Independence Day Mayat celebration. And this year's theme, Message to the Warriors, in honor of the great literary work of our Jegna, of our African warrior scholar, Baba Nwalimu Guruti. And we will have, of course, great entertainment. We will have great activists and speakers out there, an African marketplace, a children's pavilion area for the children. And we will just have a great time as we usually do. This is our 18th annual, and we are looking forward to bringing it to you. The African Independence Day Organizing Committee, along with Urban Shamans Productions and Be Mayat Incorporated. Shout outs to my brothers, Kamul Huru and Faru Mayat, my good brothers out there, and you can join them on Monday nights, Be Mayat Incorporated at 7 p.m. right here on Do the Knowledge Radio. But I will talk a little bit more about African Independence Day, the 18th annual African Independence Day Mayat celebration, and the 5th annual Pan-African Junkanoo at the end of our program tonight. But if you like any more information on African Independence Day, call our business line at 267-521-1544. Once again, that is 267-521-1544. If you'd like to vend, if you'd like to perform, if you would like to speak and present at African Independence Day, please give us a call. And you can also hit us up on our Gmail at africanindependenceday@gmail.com. African spelled AFRKAN, Independence Day @gmail.com, as we are working to once again restore our official website, africanindependenceday.org. Just give us a little bit more time with that, and we will have that back up for you for any and all information on the 18th annual African Independence Day Mayat celebration and the 5th annual Pan-African Junkanoo. If you would like to support this program, The War Report, at the bottom of your ticker there, you will see the Cash App, my personal Cash App for the program at $Oba God 7. Once again, that is $Oba God 7. And please, please, please support all the great programming right here at DTKR, Do the Knowledge Radio, by going to Cash App or via PayPal. On Cash App, it is $Knowledge Born Allah. Once again, that is $Knowledge Born Allah. And on PayPal, it is PayPal.me/Do the Knowledge Radio. Once again, that is PayPal.me/Do the Knowledge Radio. You're not going to find any kind of programming like this that is straight up and down about the liberation, the resurrection, rise, and redemption of African people like you'll find here on Do the Knowledge Radio. It has to be supported. It has to be, supported by African dollars and by African people. This thing is not free. So as Brother Malcolm would say, you're basically spending freedom dollars to have a voice out here for you, by you, and strictly intended to raise the consciousness of African people. So please support Do the Knowledge Radio. So now, being that we've gotten some of the family particulars and business out of the way, I can bring on my esteemed guest, brother who I've known for quite a while, a brother who actually is a professor currently teaching at King College. Tonight we're going to talk about genealogy, which is an interesting topic in the war zone right here on the War Report. He is the producer director of an independent documentary that he had done entitled DNA, Using Genealogy to Change Our Slave Masters' Names. I'd like to bring on our guest and welcome him, Professor Nware Burge. Welcome, welcome,
Hey.
welcome, brother. Welcome to the War Report.
Hey, peace and blessings. I appreciate you having me on here, man. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings to you. Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
well, thank you for coming on, brother. Like you said, it was long overdue.
Yeah.
I always intended to have you on here.
Yes.
You can definitely always approach me.
Yes.
Very,
Yes.
very approachable.
All
You know
right.
what I mean? Say, hey, I like to be on the program and everything of that nature. But we made it work. We had a great conversation earlier in the week.
Mhm.
About 2-3 hour conversation early in the week about various different things going on with you in terms of DNA and your newest project, which we're going to talk about, which I think is very, very interesting as well. And possibly have another guest on the program that you want to invite on who is a part of your newer project, which is entitled From Mothers Who Don't Allow for Their Children to See Their Fathers, another documentary that you're currently working on. But right now, to talk about your award-winning documentary DNA, my first question to you is, why did you decide to do a documentary on DNA, the importance of genealogy? Why did you choose that particular topic? Because it's an interesting topic that many of us as Black people, as African people, don't really get into a lot. A lot of people say, what is it with a last name? My last name is Johnson or Taylor or Anderson or, Rogers or whatever, what's in the last name? It is what it is. And you find a mentality amongst many of our people out here that feel as though that it's not that important, it's not that significant to go back and trace their family lineage and their history to find out if they are African, or where they're from in a particular part, a region of the continent. And a lot of that is due to, the diseases that I find that many of our people suffer from, the diseases of crackatosis and niggeritis. And no, I'm just keeping it a beat. A lot of us are not encouraged to do that. But why tackle the topic of DNA?
Well, as an educator, and today I'm here right now at Keene University, about 5 minutes right outside of Newark, New Jersey, where I'm from. I teach a course called Films of the African World Experience. So anybody who's in academia know what this week is right now. These last 2 weeks is finals and papers. Yo, look at this. So I got a stack full of papers. I got a grade, brother, just papers. But what they say, if you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. One of the papers, if you can see here closely, 1804, the Haitian Revolution. Got another paper here. This is what I got them watching, a Great and Mighty Walk. Dr. John Henry Clark. This is the type of papers I'm grading. You know, another one here is the other one I saw here. Zumbi, Palmares, Lumbo. You know what I mean? This is what we writing on. So it's important for, although we should be reading books and getting that knowledge and information as we're going forward, that the audio and the visuals is what a lot of people are gravitating to more than ever. So I always say read, but also the visuals for the younger generation is good too. So utilizing this film, and the title is DNA, Using Genealogy to Change My Slave Last Name. Now, a lot of people, you know, it's just not centered around just the last name, but the idea of using the genealogy is a science. So specifically, it's funny because we sometimes feel like we're talking to two audiences. Talking to an audience that's in the know, that understands culturally relevant pedagogy and certain levels of social sciences from an African perspective. And you have an audience that may not necessarily understand the rhetoric. So I try to keep things in as much layman's terms as possible, because when you're around a lot of scholarships and brothers and sisters, there's a lot of brothers and sisters that it could be over the head. So I'm always trying to stay as layman's terms as possible. But in regards to the film, I felt that for me as a indigenous brother of African descent, that we're speaking English, we're socialized under the social science systems of people like John Locke's theory of individualism, Karl Marx's theory of socialism, you know, the Shambos. We can go on and on with these names that many of us may not be aware of in regards to how we're socialized. So in regards to, you know, Arabic and European spiritual religions, dress codes, marriage systems, almost everything that we do is from a European Arabic perspective, and not indigenous to Africa. So, and I'm personally guilty of it, being part of the social system, being bred into that. So the idea of the film comes out of just thinking to myself, why are we still speaking English? Why, if we are aware of this, now many may not be, but why are we still speaking this English? Why are we still carrying these names? Why are we still being cultured like this if we have this, have gotten this awareness to step away from that? So that's where the initial idea comes from. In my late teens, early 20s, as I began reading and getting knowledge of self and information from the likes of Dr. Ben Yakin and Dr. John Clark, names that we consistently talk about, Francis Cress Welsing and Marimba Ani, and on and on. I won't say that I'm not, quote unquote, the word radical now, or thinking a certain way, but definitely back then, I was, you know, you're trying to learn Swahili, you're trying to figure this thing out here in the shores of the Americas and stuff. So I couldn't understand why so many people weren't going in that direction, to learn a language outside of English, to get rid of this the slave name. Although you might see me now, all right, now I got a Diodora cap on, right? You know, Italian cap, whatever. In those days, not like I still don't have that same mindset. I do. I would have 20 years. I've never put this on as a gift. I've never worn it. So, you know, and I just say I kind of fell back. But what I'm saying is, I could not understand why we weren't embracing a total holistic African-centered perspective, from hair to everything. And so that's where the nature of the film came out of. So as time goes on, after 30, you know, I guess 20 years later of reading and culturalizing into Western society, not to say that, you know, we're talking about people who move in this thing and don't necessarily have issue with it, But I will always have issue with this thing. I will always have issue with speaking English, carrying these names, et cetera, et cetera. So the film comes out of the idea of using genealogy science to look into your specific ethnic African origin. Now, those of us who are aware of eugenics and scientific racism are very skeptical about that, and I understand. I'm clear on why. And the origins of the DNA comes out of the Francis Crick papers. Now, we can go back a little further in regards to the science of it, but if you're familiar with Francis Crick and some of these European scientists who were at the forefront of doing this DNA research to break down the helix, there were people who began to understand that it could be utilized for other things. So I think this was the late 50s, early 60s when this first happened. Fast forward to the 1990s, early 2000s, you had Europeans who began to use it from a sort of racial dynamics to maintain a certain pureness of blood, if you will, as well as looking up illnesses. So there was a lot of illnesses that was going on for a lot of people. And so that was another reason why the genetics was researched and used to for the possibility of being able to heal these years of these genetic disorders. So to get off of that, to get into more or less for Black people, everyone has seen the PBS specials with Henry Louis Gates. Well, I won't say everyone has seen it, but for the most part, people will point to Henry Louis Gates as one of the first people to utilize the DNA for people who are trying to find out where they're from.
You mean Skip Gates?
In Africa, yeah, Henry Louis Skip Gates.
Yeah, that's what Baba Khalid Muhammad is referred to him as, Skip Gates. So that's why I know him as well, Skip Gates.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you probably know why I'm laughing, but I ain't gonna get into that. But so for the sake of DNA, from a Black perspective, I don't know if people are familiar with the African burial ground in New York City. Years ago, in the late 90s, they were doing construction to build a building. They found some bones in that Wall Street area. When those bones were found, they kept trying to continue to build. There were other people who were fighting to find out where the bones were from, and then they halted the building. They utilized Howard University's genealogy department to excavate and find out where those bones were from. The genealogy department found out that they were from the coast of West Africa, and these were indigenous African people who were working to build up Wall Street, if you will, and America, if you will. So there's a whole thing around that people could look up in regards to the African burial ground and how it started. There's a whole story around that, but I'm not going to go into that. So people then began to ask, well, if those bones could be excavated to find out, and they found out that they were from West Africa, and they did a whole ceremony around that, and then built a museum to represent those indigenous Africans who weren't buried properly, didn't receive their proper burial. People began to say, hey, well, can't those be used to find out where we're from in Africa? So Dr. Rick Kittles and Dr. Gina Page, who was a marketing person at the time, came together and created AfricanAncestry.com.
Yeah.
So that's how that started at the inception of the African burial ground. A lot of people don't know that story. So other companies had their genetic companies, but they decided to just utilize research and get African genetic blood from like West Africans. And then once they began to do these tests amongst indigenous West Africans, they were doing the tests with African Americans, Caribbean Americans, and then coming up with the results of matrilineal, patrilineal. Matrilineal meaning mother, patrilineal meaning father. And so through those genetic bloodlines, they were able to do the tests on Y chromosome, X chromosomes, and then in what's called an autosomal test, a full encompassing test, to find out where who you were directly connected to. So when Henry Louis Gates was doing this on PBS, a lot of people began to start to look into how they can do that test also. But aside from that, Dr. Gina Page created AfricanAncestry.com. And you have people such as Danny Glover, Harry Belafonte, Chadwick Boseman, Anthony Anderson, and all of these people. Because I say that meaning like common folk like me and you were doing it, right? But I won't say you personally, but common folk were doing it. But when you put these names of Black people, sometimes it makes other people more interested in doing it. Sad to say.
Let me ask you this. I don't know maybe if you have an answer. How accurate are those tests? Because you know me, man. I'm very skeptical. I'm very leery about a lot of things, and anything that has anything to do with, you know what I mean, the European, you know, with this cracker, with this damn double. I'm very, 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 very leery of. How accurate are these tests? You know, because you know, I mean, I feel like everything's a hustle. You know what I mean? If you have something for us as African people, saying that, you know, this can, you know, trace this particular system can trace your ancestry back to where you come from and who and what you are and everything of that nature, and then you put a couple of Black celebrities faces up in front of the product, like you said, it's going to endear people to want to, you know, go ahead and become a part of, or to purchase this system called Ancestry.com. And, you know, so I think that everything's a hustle. You know what I mean? But how accurate is it?
Well, we're living in, again, we're not living in a barter and trade social society, which would be the norm. If people understand what I, you know, understand that. It's, you know, it's corporate capitalism. So everything that everyone's doing is to make money. Now, not to say that Dr. Page, Dr. Kittles, and them specifically don't have the people's best interests also. So I think it's a bit of both. Of course, it's, you know, to make money, but also for people to have that connect. Now, in regards to the accuracy, the one thing we have to understand is, for example, if you've ever been to a hospital, they have your blood already. They've been utilizing Henrietta Lacks's genetics for years for science and stuff like that. Everyone's blood's been used, placenta, all that, for all kind of stuff well before this. And I think for those that are quote unquote in the know, that should be common knowledge. So the DNA genetic thing comes later. They've been doing this since the plantation. So when you get into like the pricing of it and those type of things, it's absolutely to also make money too. Now, in regards to the accuracy, I can only speak from basic science on a basic level. XY chromosomes, when you do the testing and how it matches up. So if somebody's in jail for 30, 40 years and they can get a DNA test, they're not going to reject DNA and say, hey, I'm just staying in jail because I don't trust the test. Or, you know, when we call, you know, finding out who the father is and these things. Or when we claim our indigenous cultural heritage based off of the carbon study and the carbon data for primary evidence, or the DNA genetic science, that if those who aren't familiar, Sheikh Anta Diop is a Senegalese archaeologist and anthropologist who utilized these methods to prove our connection to Nile Valley civilization. So we can't now separate that, because this is how, through a lot of research and data and study, scientists such as Anthony Browder, who's right now in, I believe, Nubia, Merowe, or Southern Sudan area region, excavating. So there is a science to these things that we're using and we're claiming for our esteem and social power as a people. So we can't now block it out and say, oh, well, we're not going to use that because, you know, of what we believe these people are doing. If you, you know, get into an accident, put the wrong blood in, you're going to die. Right. So there's a certain level of basic science on a basic level that I think we have to understand because of long lack of respect and trust of these systems. We have to understand there are systems that are basic that is right and exact. So, you know, that you can't, 1 + 1 is 2 no matter what. We might want it to be 3, might feel that it's 3, but it's just 2. It's always going to be 2. So for her, she destroys the DNA because she knows a lot of Black people, this is what the company says that they do, because they were using the people's DNA to do all kind of stuff. So there have been news reports, and this is true, and this is accurate, that this was happening. So I'm not in here to say that this wasn't going on. And so she states in the company, as a Black-owned company, that they do that. That you could use, like, let's say you don't want your name on it, you put another name on, and just put your address and send it, and have it done that way. So when it comes to that, for me, I felt like, okay, trust is a sister. I trust her. I trust the science and understanding the science, especially when it was laid out, and how that goes. So again, when we say the blood thing, like, again, they've been using our stuff for all kind of stuff. Yeah. And I hate to say that, but your blood, you know, for those out there, your stuff has been looked at and been used, you know, all the time. And when I say you, I mean Black people in general. So with me not understanding that, I just felt like the way Dr. Page explains it in my film, the records are cut off. A lot of things are cut off when you're doing the research. You can only get to a certain point. So my idea was, hey, you may not be able to get to, even if you had millions of dollars to do intensive, extensive research, you may not get to that exact one, but you can get close. We also have to remember that indigenous Africans were being brought here well into the late 1800s, early 19th century, regardless of the so-called emancipation that ended. You know, you had pirate movement all the way until then. So we're not that disconnected.
Let me ask you this. Where did your research take you? How many places here in you know, in this country and all over the world? What places did you go to gather your empirical data and evidence, you know, to do your documentary?
Okay, so I went to the Society of Genealogists in London, in England. That's specifically where my name comes from. Burge is Norman, England, Northern England. One thing we have to remember, just like when we talk about indigenous African ethnic tribes, we are aware that there's indigenous European ethnic tribes, like you know, barbarics or savage or any of those names that you use. These are indigenous ethnic groups, Norman, stuff like that. So my name, you know, many names. We're talking about Thompson and Jackson, son of Jack, son of Tom, Robinson, son of Robin. And, you know, our names are European white names. Like, there's nothing to discuss or debate. Moors may have a different lens on it. Moors, people study Moors doctrine, but these names come from that region of the Normans and different ethnic groups, the French and the Germanic language of English. So that's where my name is from. Lovett is my mother's surname. It means like Beowulf in their etymological language. And then Burge is I'm forgetting the actual English surname meaning. So pardon me for a sec, because I always know this right off the top. But Burge has this other ethnic etymological meaning coming out of that area. So went there, saw the names, the regions, spoke with some of the professors at, I think, the University of Leicester, that's in England. Getting to the genetic science now, specifically went with Dr. Kittles and Dr. Page in regards to the testing that they have done of West Africans, which a lot of the scientists and Black scientists are doing in regards to seeing how much more of us are from that region based off of testing Yoruba, Igbo, Akan, Ashanti, Ga, Ewe people, Bamileke people, testing these people, and then you do the test with us, and then you're like, okay, this matches up. So my thing has always been, you have something, even though I haven't changed my name yet, and it's going to happen. And we'll talk about that, because you don't just change your last name. There's a whole process that's to be taken. What I would, in my personal opinion, if you were to choose Bamileke, God, Ashanti, whatever, from your test, then I personally kind of believe you should go there or seek out someone in a Khan, maybe Babalawo or chief or priestess or whatever, to now go through that process, not just kind of what many people, when they don't want to have a quote unquote white European name, first name or last name. They kind of like when I talked to Dr. Malefi Asante, he said when he went to, I think, Ghana and received his Asante, I believe, he said he would have done the DNA had he known, but he done it years ago, because he felt that, yeah, that's a great idea, and it would be more accurate, because this is specifically who you are if you understand, respect, and or trust the science of DNA. So you're going to get a myriad of things. We know there's the European in there because of the slave trade. So, for example, from what I understand from Dr. Page, and she can explain it better, there's going to be higher percentages on the matrilineal mother side of African ancestry because of the rapings of the slave, of the Europeans.
More than it is on the father's side, the patrilineal side. Yeah,
patrilineal is going to be, I think 70 or 80%, but there's a different breakdown in that. And I'm not doing it justice of that specificity of the breakdown of how and what that is. And so again, you have two sides. And only if you're a woman, only your, male brother, uncle, father can do that to get that side. But the mother is passed down, how that generation. And so, like I said, you're going to get some percentages of probably a little bit European or whatever, but it's not about that. Like, it's not about if you see this 0.1% or 2% Irish, or let's say it's 5%, to now change your name to O'Neill and start wearing a kilt. This is about your percentage of indigenous African that, and it might be a few groups there, but now you have something to go on. If you think or believe your surname represents slavery. Now, that's my belief. The surnames is slave names. That's my understanding. That's my primary evidence and documentation and everything we see or know. It comes from the slave master. So as long as that name is on you, you will always be connected to your masters, regardless of how free you think or feel you are. That's just what that is. And so when I was at the Society,
and just to stop you real quickly, I agree with you. Even when you first began to speak about the fact of there is a problem with us not understanding the damage that was done when you're a people, because there are those of us who study the fact that there were Africans already here in Americas before so-called chattel slavery. But we're talking about the ones who were uprooted, went through the Middle Passage, went through the Mahafas, you know what I'm saying? And then replanted here. Everything stripped from you. You know what I mean? Your name, your language, your culture, your gods, everything stripped from you. And just remade and refashioned in the image and the likeness of your oppressor, to the point that our people became so damaged that through their association with their oppressor, they began to assimilate some of the decadent, degrading behavior of this beast. You know what I'm saying? So, which is saying is true. You know, we shouldn't. We have to get rid of. And I don't think that this can happen overnight. This is a generational process because it took us generations to get in the condition that we're in. So it's going to be a process of an intergenerational process of us getting out of it. That we got to get rid of all European linkages, names, customs, holidays, religion, the way we dress. We got to get rid of all of that. You know what I mean? And work towards getting rid of that, you know, completely. You know what I mean? It's not, you know, the process is going to, you know, take a short period of time, like I said. But I totally agree with you, what you said at the very beginning of, you know, our dialogue tonight. I totally agree with you on that. And I don't know of too many true Africans out there, because I know a lot of people talk the talk, but really ain't really walking the walk. And that would agree with you that in order for us to truly be liberated, no matter how free you think you are, you got to break yourself away from all European linkages.
I'm 1,000% with you. And just pulling up a link real quick here. It's just that my understanding also, like even in the film, I talk with Baba Olamina, Senator Kevin Parker. He's in the film, and not to jump off the topic, but staying on the topic, he makes a great point about retention and what retention is. And so, meaning that you see mostly Yoruba retention in the Caribbean and in the Americas. So when we talk about, you know, indigenously being here, the majority of the retention that you see, the two-footed shuffle dance in the Black church, is a Congolese. You know, any type of you name any of the movements and rhythms that you see it, you know, throughout hip hop, and, you know, whatever it is, capoeira, Black church, whatever. Right. You see the retention, the speaking pattern, so-called Ebonics, or, you know, the Gullah Geechee language, and talk, and, you know, so many different retentions of the Yoruba or West African cultures. You know, Akana Shanti, we could go on and on. Right. It's been proven through Black historians. It's not just, you know, when we talk about the debate of where's your research, your history from, is it from white scholars, Black scholars, et cetera, et cetera. You clearly understand when we talk about the retention of what you're seeing socially, it's, you know, it's from those things. It's too much evidence for us to even go into that, to just say, you know, there's such a small percentage of us that's from the continent, this new rhetoric that's going on. So it's not to say that, you know, there's been proof of us being here and movements and stuff, so we understand that. But when you see the retention of behavior, certain things that were socialized around, it's clearly West African. So I don't want to get kind of into that debate, but to add to what you were saying, it's clear that we've always, many of people here, indigenous West Africans or indigenous people, have totally consciously and unconsciously uphold white supremacy and have embraced it. And I think you're more surprised when you hear people talk about
or what we call white terrorism. I'm beginning to use that term because that's what it is white terrorism. There's nothing supreme about being white or European. You know what I mean? But what they do and the type of relationship that they have created with the African is a tyrannical relationship. So they terrorize African people. So let's call it what it is white terrorism.
Yeah, exactly. I have no issues in understanding that. We just talked about it
Right.
during the show.
Right.
There were some students that missed 1804, about the Haitian Revolution, and we talked about the type of tyranny and terrorism that went on,
Right.
that led to freedom. And so just teaching them about, I'm constantly talking about the brother Akala out of London,
Okay.
historian brother, who,
Right.
talked to one remark that he makes in the film where he talks about, if you taking my children and violently, killing my people, is only logical that, you're gonna push back against that type of tyranny and terrorism and oppression. So I'm more surprised when I hear people talk like that. You know what I mean? So when people don't know who Malana Karanga is, I have no idea. I'm not surprised by that. You know what I mean? Like when we hear and see, because these are the social and cultural norms that have been holistically and wholeheartedly embraced. Some people will say, the brainwashing from the plantation all the way down, but then there's also a point where, there's a pushback.
Right.
So, there's, I don't know how some people look at it a certain way where people are embracing Eurocentric culture and enjoy speaking English and are fine with it and fine with representing being, I guess, what I might say, the Black Europeans that we are. Some people are okay with that.
So how long did it take you? So how long did it take you to get your empirical? Like, how many years did it take you to say, hey, through all my travel, and and once again, please tell us some of the places that you went, because I know that you had to really jump around and go to various different places to get all of the information, the data, and things of that nature gathered together to be able to piece this particular documentary together.
So my family, like I said, I talked about going to England, and of course, going down south to, out west. Real quick, on my mother's side, they're from Savannah and Statesboro, Georgia. My father's side from Rome, Georgia. Majority. And so during the migrations, my mother's side came up to Harlem, Brooklyn, Bronx, Inglewood, Teaneck, Newark, and Philadelphia on both sides of my mother's side. Father's side, most of them went out west. Oklahoma City, Midwest City, pretty much. Tulsa also. So we have a good amount of land out there. So going out west in regards to my family and the things that they talked about, and as well as my father's side also doing research, and my aunt Feeney, and my uncle Ermin, and my father, who transitioned in 2019, doing that research about how far back we go, and then them also doing a genetic test, and then me, doing my own research, but also going over to Europe. Again, our surnames, majority of surnames, just come out of that. Like Shaquille O'Neal, he's not Irish. O'Neal is clearly Irish. He's the biggest Blackest African you ever want to see.
Right.
So in order to know where that comes from, I guess people could say, oh, you just Google it. You could just, you know what I mean? But I needed to go and see for myself. So I mentioned the Society of Genealogists there, but also I was able to go to Ghana. I haven't been able to go to Nigeria as of yet. And I'm pretty sure people in the audience understand before 1864, the Berlin Conference, we know there were empires, Mali Empire, Songhai Empire, Timbuktu, we can go on and on. So it wasn't none of these lines and stuff. So I have a brother who's from Sierra Leone, and he's Bamaleke. And his issues with the genetic testing or the DNA, the migrations and stuff, and the ethnic groups and stuff. and who was what it was, which is very, very valid. Because now we're pretty much dealing with nationalism and stuff. So I haven't been to. My goal is one day to get to that part of Nigeria, with Igbo, southern Nigeria.
Right.
I have to get my patrilineal side. I haven't gotten that yet. I've also been to Ghana. My film, DNA, won Best Documentary at the Black Star International Film Festival.
Okay.
Ghana. So at the Black Star Festival in Philadelphia, but you at the Black Star International Film Festival in Accra. You plug this in. I just got the battery life thing. She's got a different computer. Let me call her and tell her to bring the charger. I'm on a different computer, and so I have someone else's computer and the battery. I was about to try to plug it in, but it's like a different charger. But hey, sis, can you tell Samantha to bring the her charger? Yeah. So I hope she has a charger. But so traveling to Ghana, Accra, I was also able to go to the slave dungeons at Cape Coast. I was when I was in I didn't get a chance to go to Kumasi, but I was in, East Legon, West Legon, Tema, Teshi, Osu. So shout out to my Ghanaians. They if, anyone that sees this video, they'll know, all that area. I was all over. Just mad I didn't get a chance to get up to Kumasi. But I was able to take the trip from Accra to Cape Coast. So and got to actually talk and build and reason with a lot of my brothers and sisters there, with original Ashanti and Akan and Ga and Ewe people, some of those ethnic groups, of meeting those people. And, I don't even want to call it a benefit, but speaking English allows you to be able to have that communication. Thank you. This is one of my former students, Sister Samantha, right here helping me out. Thank you, Samantha.
Hello.
So Samantha, come here real quick.
Yeah.
Not to jump off the topic, but you want to share with the audience what you were jumping off the topic real quick. Share with the audience what you learned in the class. So I taught a class called Films of the African World Experience. This is one of my former students, Samantha.
Hi.
If you want to tell the audience some of the things you learned that you can recall.
Definitely. Okay.
Can you come into the camera?
Yeah, behind it. Yeah.
1 second, you're gonna have to.
Yeah. Come on this side. And bring it back around.
Hi. So I'm a former student. I actually attended this class online during the pandemic. We actually looked at a couple different lenses. We looked at tribalism. We looked at different revolutions as well as revolts that was occurring. One from a Brazilian tribe. Could you remind me the name?
Zumbia Palmadas.
Zumbia. Yes, absolutely. And I connected it with my culture because I'm Haitian. So we also watched 1804. We also looked at film in America. So we looked at Behind the Gates, Our Gates. Versus
Within Our Gates.
Within Our Gates, as well as what's the other movie?
Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation. We compared two different type of perspectives going on. I liked Black Girl. That was my favorite movie. I always recommend people to watch that movie because we have to realize class differences as well as the role of gender in terms of racism. So that's what I personally got out, especially in terms of the white savior complex and how it affects African people across the world. So I got a lot of perspectives on different films. We also looked at Black Panther and Do the Right Thing, interracial type of conflicts, as well as intraracial conflicts, especially seen in Black Panther.
Right. That kind of stuff.
Yes, it was a lot of lenses. It was just giving us a base foundation of what's going on in our community with different films. Didn't have to be, we did have like in-depth conversations each class, but it wasn't convoluted. It didn't feel too harsh. It was just straight to the point. We had enough visuals, enough examples, as well as articles and books to refer to actually help us gain a better understanding. Matter of fact, I'm in the All Africans People Revolutionary Party currently. And we were talking about W.E.B. Du Bois and his perception of Egypt as well as Ethiopia. And our first chapter or unit that we went into was Egypt as well as Kush, having that background on Egyptian mania in America, as well as how Egyptian history has been taken away from us, as well as other civilizations and tribes in Africa.
So and I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
It's okay.
But
Thank
one
you,
of the sharper students,
Thank
here. And as you can see, she's very sharp with the information and stuff like that. And she's well involved here at King University. And thank you so much. Pan-African Student Union, the whole nine. Thank you so much, Samantha. All right. Yeah, so she came with something. I said, you know what? I know she's so sharp. Let her talk about the class real quick. So again, this is what we got to do. You know what I mean? This is the only way, teach our students, teach our youth to understand the world that they're in, and how being an indigenous African is the thinking and moving forward. And so
let me ask your goal in doing DNA. The project, once again, just going back.
My apologies, jumping off the topic.
Took you how many years to complete? And number two question is, what is your goal in putting out DNA? What do you want African people to get out of it? I mean, like, there are those of us, like you said earlier, who are, in the know, who are aware, who are so-called quote unquote conscious. And then there are those of us who have never ever been, never thought about the importance and the significance of DNA, of genealogy. And this is kind of new to them, but their interest has been piqued because of a project such as yours. So what is the goal of putting it out for the people? And the first part of the question was, how many years did it take you to complete this particular project?
So, great question. I was in Philadelphia, and I did I went to Scribe Video Center. And at the end of the class, like an 8, because I wasn't a filmmaker, I was an educator, high school teacher, special education teacher. I'm currently adjunct professor. So this was my first time delving in film, and so I don't have a what they call MFA, Masters of Fine Arts. I took a class to use a camera at Scribe Video Center in Philadelphia. If anybody knows a film called Eyes on the Prize, the woman that ran the Scribe Video Center was one of the major executive producers or producers in Eyes on the Prize. So I suggest anybody in the Philadelphia area or anyone in general, if you have local film schools, it doesn't have to be an MFA or big university program. You can learn to use a camera, take a class, et cetera, and you can do a film. It was the class was about 8 to 12 weeks, I believe. At the end, you're supposed to have a 15-minute piece, whether it's a narrative piece or documentary piece. So about 9 to 10 of us. So I had some great people that I work with that helped me out in my filming at the very beginning. And so what I realized was initially the film was supposed to be about the religion cultures, Black spiritual systems, original. which now later is another project that I've written out and have started the beginning stages of filming. But this new project that I'm doing pushed all of that back. It was going to be a film about all the positives that these indigenous cultures brought to, or the positives of these spiritual systems brought to Black America. Nation of Gods and Earths, Hebrew Israelites, the Moors, the Akan and Ifa societies, the Kemetic societies, et cetera, Nation of Gods and Earths, Nation of Islam, all the positive things, Rastafarians, all the positive things that was brought. So that's how initially this started. Then I started thinking about the names and DNA and genealogy. And then I was like, you know something? I need to do something around that. And then I started that. The process was about 12 weeks. Now, again, I was supposed to have a 15-minute piece. It wound up getting longer and longer as I interviewed people like Baba Olamide, Senator Kevin Parker, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, the Brown family from the EFI community in Philadelphia, and Dr. Gina Page, of course. So it wound up like with all of that. It was also a social narrative. So when you said where I'm trying to go with it, it was also a social narrative. It wasn't just about the DNA genetics, but it's a social narrative about embracing our culture. And so, you know, I think there's a small shot of, I think you in it as we're doing the procession at the Ogun Day Festival. There's also a shot at Coney Island, the ancestor ceremony in Coney Island in Brooklyn. And I talk about us embracing our culture. And so this is sort of what that was about. So much so, I got to tell this quick story. So when I screened the film in Ghana, I screened it at different spots in Ghana, the main theater in Ghana, but also a place called the Local House. And so there's a time, if you know some of the traditional, I know you know, but there's some traditional things that you do in regards to when you're given to the ancestors. And so there's a scene that I have as we're giving, you know, the fruit into the water, and there's a whole meaning and understanding around that. So as we're doing that, in the film, there was some Ghanaians that were at the very end questioning what that was. And so I didn't pick it up, but there was another Ghanaian brother that did. So in the Q&A after the film, they said there was some Ghanaians, 2 or 3 of them, they said they liked the film. But then they asked, what was that you were doing? And they knew, but at the time I kind of wasn't catching on. So there was another brother from Ghana that said, hey, you know, he said, hey, you know, they say Charlie a lot in Ghana. If you say, hey, Charlie, the brother, he understand our culture. This is our culture that we've gotten away from. And so he was kind of like talking, you know, and I kind of knew, then I got an understanding of where they were going in regards to, we understand this is, you know, a very colonized, these colonized societies and, you know, religious systems and stuff. And so, so again, being colonized, you're trained to reject yourself. You know what I mean? That's what colonization is. You're trained to reject your system. So this was some of the stuff during the film that, you know, during the screening, that one of the Ghanaians kind of called out, and he just talked about the importance of the film.
Right.
And the question you were asking, that socialization of I guess embracing what was stolen from us, or what was lost.
Right.
So that's the goal of the film. So it's not just about the DNA and the name and all that kind of stuff. It's a kind of like I guess a holistic approach of understanding who we are, who our people are, and how we need to embrace these systems and these cultures well beyond, you know, locks or, you know, dashikis or cultural garb.
Right.
You know, just different social norms and language and these different things. So it was just about all of that.
Right.
So
let me for a minute talk about your newest project, because your newest project is very, very interesting and very, very polarizing, because on one end you're dealing with DNA and genealogy, and now your newest project that you're working on for mothers who don't let their children see their fathers. You're going from one extreme to another extreme. Let's talk about your newest project and what was your inspiration behind it.
Best I Can is a song by Rhapsody and Busta Rhymes, and where at the beginning of the song, Rhapsody comes out talking about the accountability of not letting her father see the child in the whole tug of war around the child, which is what's called parental alienation. And I guess being in what we call the single world or single life or whatever the dating, whatever these things are, and not even bringing that into the fray, just having conversations, about culture and family with sisters and certain things. And what I wound up seeing and what wound up happening was, I kept hearing the same narrative when I would, and it wasn't like prying, just in conversation. You may ask about the dad or something if the sister has children, and this wasn't all the time with different people that I know, but it happened a few times where I couldn't hear a real legit reason why the father wasn't seeing a sister's kids, a mother's kids. And so when I noticed that it kept happening, it just dawned on me one day, and these are university sisters, educated sisters, highly intelligent, but weren't like necessarily given like this legitimate reason, because when this narrative or this conversation comes up about the children with the dad, what I tended to hear was about this, this violent thing, and we know the majority of our brothers aren't not violent like this. And so when I talked about this film to different people, specifically some sisters, the first thing that they would say, and a few brothers too, about men beating on a woman or beating the kids and stuff like that. And through doing this documentary, I have two attorneys, a social, a family health practitioner, a couple of different sisters, one from London, different places, and they talked about how that's a myth and how that's used also within the court systems. So the fathers either get minimal visitation or none at all. So so I had other projects, like I mentioned, I didn't give you the title of the other project, which is Our God is Black, the refusal of a white deity. When I talked about all the spiritual systems, when I said I was working on a different project, and then there's another project I started also called Black Beaches, beach property owned by Black Americans that's going to talk about eminent domain, the Ku Klux Klan pushing brothers and sisters off of their land in the early 19th century, and the understanding of land wealth and these different things, and these Black beaches that brothers and sisters own around America. And then even DNA Part 2, Igbo Landing, which is going to talk about Blacks now migrating to the continent as they move away from a Eurocentric paradigm here in the Americas. So those were some of the projects. But when I had this idea of an all-women's narrative talking about this issue, I said, you know what, I need to just hop on this right away, because it's very important. And I kind of stepped away from, the Black or Pan-African kind of, because this is a kind of a global subject matter, or all inclusive subject matter.
And a subject matter that we as African men, as Black men, can relate to. I know, I can relate to it personally at one time.
Yeah.
Things have, gotten better, between my son's, mother and myself. you know, but or are, you know, steadily getting better. But you know, everybody, you know, everybody is not in the same situation, you know, that I may be in. And so this is something that we as Black men, as African men, definitely can relate to. And you know, it's an interesting subject matter because I've never really had anybody, and you know, I've known you for a long time. Not even yourself would have thought that a brother would say, "Hey, let me do a documentary about why Black mothers are not allowed for their children to see or spend time with
Yeah.
their fathers." You know, so
Or limited the time significantly. So, and who better else to talk about it but the women?
right.
Because again,
Agreed.
it's sad. The sad realities is one of the sisters even says, um, you know how yeah, there's patriarchal, but so-called patriarchy. I don't want to get into all of that, but when she was mentioning this, she was also saying how our voices aren't heard as men, and you hear this a lot of rhetoric about that. And she was even talking about even emoting. The only time, really time, you see a brother even emote is when their team loses or something. You know, if they lose the championship, you see a brother crying. Like that's the only time you see that. And I thought about what the sister said. I said, "Wow, you know, that's a good point." So, and this sister was talking about how the importance of Black men in the lives of the fathers, but this sister had a great narrative and understanding around what's happening to the majority of brothers in America because of this. So yeah, man. So this is something that is a good thing that you brought it up, and this is just something that I didn't even do it because of my personal situation. It was more or less listening, and I kept hearing it and kept hearing it. I was like, something I'm talking about from my boys and, from sisters that I knew that, I wasn't hearing kind of a real reason for the kid not to see the dad. And I wouldn't say nothing or comment. I was just listening like, wow, like, I'm waiting, you don't want to know if it's anything negative or bad. But nothing seemed to be like the dude had, because they would kind of say, hey, no, he's good. It wasn't no nasty, nothing crazy.
Right.
I was confused.
Right.
I wouldn't comment. I'd leave it there. And would just say it's important that they see him. But when it happened over time, different, people, I was like, yo, I think I need to do something on
Right.
this. It's so normal. It's so regular. It's such a norm in Black society that, no one says nothing about it. You might have a conversation with one of your boys. You might complain.
And we can both safely agree that it's by design.
Yeah.
But the greatest threat to white terrorism, the greatest threat to so-called European imperialism is the African family. A strong nuclear African family. A mother, father, and children. It's a great threat, and these plans and machinations were put into effect going back into the 60s. The idea of welfare and things of that nature, that women were allowed to get welfare and men weren't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And welfare state was created, and welfare was only a means to help individuals get back on their feet, and then subsidize public housing, which we know as the projects or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Women were allowed to move in with their children, but their men couldn't come with them. So it was designed by this system of white terrorism to keep Black men, Black women, the African man, the African woman away from one another, and allow their children to suffer because of this. You know what I mean? Thus creating that split and thus creating that idea of women saying, you know, I'm going to punish, you know, my husband or the father of my children by not allowing for him to see them such and such and such and such because he doesn't support them. He doesn't, you know, have the means and the ability where he's working to, you know, financially help me in raising our children and things of that nature. And then it becomes a mess. But it's a mess that, once again, has been systemically created by the very system of white terrorism that we live in today.
Yeah. So what weaponization of the kids, and there's one sister that speaks about it, and then her relation to understanding what men is going through. Right. She had a rare, you know, I won't say rare situation, but a situation where she didn't receive for, you know, any, I think, custody, and had a bad relationship with the child based off of things that was happening with the dad. I think she wound up having to pay child support, so it made her understand what men were going through. And so, because it happens to women too, you know, and she even talks about it. It doesn't happen like that as much, you know. She clearly understands this total imbalance, but it happened to her, and it does happen to women, and it allowed her to be able to understand what's happening to the men. So I think that's, I think the women need to talk about it. It is, because not to say that no one's going to listen to us. It's just that, you know, the women need to talk to women like men need to talk to men. So, you know, so that's kind of, I just thought it would be just important for the women to talk about it. I have a few great sisters who have good voices talking about it. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's going to be a good project. Again, all women talking about it.
And when can we expect that to be done? Or do you have any, target date on when that project will be completed?
This year, because I wanted it to be Father's Day, but it may be a little later. It could be August, September. I'm trying again. Remember, I want to title it best I can. I want to get some, possibly Rhapsody involved, and to utilize the song. If not, then
when you and I were talking the other day, two people that we commonly know who are culturally based African therapists in the way of marriage and relationships. And two of the best that I know, Brother Mansho and Sister Nawashi, do the Coma House Initiative, who we've had here on the War Report. So,
they're definitely getting like I've been mad busy. Like, for example, past 3 weeks, the reason I'm here, like my class been done. Well, if I take this computer into this down here, like we have what's called the Africana Studies graduation, or African graduation, May 14th. So all of that with everything else, and then the filming, all that. So I told them I was supposed to been interviewed Nware, man. So I'm gonna get to her hopefully after the 14th, when this thing is done. So because I'm gonna be here till 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, because of us trying to get this graduation ceremony together. So and I didn't let them know I've been mad busy, so that's on me. But we're definitely gonna get with them because they're great. They got great information, both of them. You know what I mean? They're sharp.
Exactly.
Razor sharp.
Before we close,
yeah.
How can people see DNA, and how can our audience, our viewing audience, get in touch with you? I know that you do speaking engagements from time to time. I mean, you are a college professor, so you do various different lectures and things of that nature with your class. But if someone wants to get in touch with you, or if anyone is interested in seeing this powerful award winning documentary, how do they get in touch with you?
I'm just putting in my email. The DNA name change and Nware Films LLC @gmail.com. Now, I only have a private link for DNA because of I have to do what's called a re-edit of certain parts, and I want to do some color correction and sound design and stuff like that. So so I have a private link. So hopefully, again, I could get that remastered and out. But it's been I've screened it at Oxford University in England, University of Helsinki in Finland, at the names discussion there. Different losing train of thought because I've been here so long, but not here at the university, but at the National Council's Black Studies Conference. It was nominated Best Documentary at the Newark International Film Festival. So I'm hoping later this year, working on the website. Website's almost complete. I have a GoFundMe that I'll also put into the chat. And so hopefully towards the end of the year, I have DNA out for people to purchase, as well as the Best I Can film, or I don't know specifically what the title was going to be. So we'll see. But definitely this year, absolutely this year. And people will go directly to the website. It will be Nware Films website, and you'll be able to put that in. The website will come up. So that should be done in a month or two. Very close to finishing that. And you'll be able to go online to see the film. So yeah, so just be on the lookout for that specifically. Yeah.
You have any final parting thoughts or any closing comments?
Well, I appreciate everything. This platform, appreciate all the information and wisdom that you shared, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Baba Sekou, your brother, who when I tell you I've learned like so much from him. You know what I mean? From Baba Sekou, and his ability to juxtapose the African spiritual system and E5 with cultural relevance and stuff like that. I mean, stuff that when I talk to people, talking points from just remembering so much. But man, just happy that you have this platform.
Thank you.
That's directed to the point when it comes to people of African descent and understanding things a certain way. So we need more of this directed to the point information. So I appreciate you having me on this platform. And again, I can be reached at DNA Name Change and at the Gmail Nware Films LLC. All right.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you for joining us, Brother Nware. I really appreciate you, man. Like I said, continued success. Of course, I'll be staying up with you and, continue to keep up with you. And I'm looking forward to your newest project from others who don't let their children see their fathers. I'm looking forward to that. But definitely, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're doing. And you're always welcome to come back to the War Report at any time, my brother.
Absolutely, brother. Peace and blessings, and thank you so much for having me.
All right now, brother. Take care. Be well. Bibi Fourier, Odabo.
Odabo.
Oh. Well, thank you all. Thank you. Definitely thank you all for joining us this evening. Our guest, Professor Nware Burge, who is the director and producer of DNA, using genealogy to change our slave last names. And it's a pleasure having him as a guest this evening. And once again, before we move to close, want to remind everybody of, once again, the upcoming 18th Annual African Independence Day Mayat celebration taking place Saturday, August the 6th at Malcolm X Memorial Park, located at 52nd and Pine Streets The exact address being 5150 Pine Street in West Philadelphia, right here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. African marketplace, plenty of vendors, children's pavilion, some of the great live African performances that will be taking place in the genres of hip hop, poetry, jazz, traditional drum, African drum and dance, will be taking place, as well as all the great dynamic, revolutionary, retributionary, powerful African speakers that will be on the rostrum at African Independence Day. The African Independence Day Organizing Committee, along with Urban Shamans Productions and Be My Incorporated, are proud to bring it to you once again this year for our 18th year. Started in 2004. I would be remiss not to mention the fact that its founder, who we all had the pleasure and the honor to know as our brother and our friend and our comrade, our brother Ahmed Tahir, who yesterday, May the 4th, marked 10 years since his transition, who we all miss in this Philadelphia area, in this Delaware Valley region. And we all miss and love very, very much. Just giving shout outs to him and livicating this particular edition of the War Report to his memory. My dear brother, my dear friend, who is the founder of African Independence Day. I'm sure he would be very, very proud of the tradition that we as the African Independence Day Organizing Committee, Urban Shamans Productions, and Be My Incorporated are continuing. And African Independence Day always kicks off with the prelude being the 5th annual Pan-African Junkanoo, which will start at 52nd and Arch Streets and make its way down the 52nd Street Business Corridor, Black 52nd Street, all the way down to 52nd and Pine Street, the location of Malcolm X Park and the home of African Independence Day. And we're looking forward to it. We're working on it, just trying to confirm some more acts, some more speakers. If anyone is interested in performing, speaking, or vending at African Independence Day, please contact us on our business line, which is 267-521-1544. Once again, that's 267-521-1544. Or hit us up on Gmail. Hit us up on Gmail at African Independence Day at gmail.com. African spelled AFRAKAN, Independence Day at gmail.com. As well as look out for the website, which we're striving to get back up, to give you any and all information on African Independence Day and our 5th annual Pan-African Junkanoo, which will take place, both events will take place on Saturday, August the 6th, right here in the city of Philadelphia. Please support all the great programming right here at DTKR, Due to Knowledge Radio. Support it by going to Cash App or to PayPal. You can Cash App any donations to $ Knowledge Born Allah. Once again, that is $ Knowledge Born Allah. As well as go to PayPal at paypal.me/Do the Knowledge Radio. Once again, that's paypal.me/Do the Knowledge Radio. And please, not only support Do the Knowledge Radio, but by supporting Do the Knowledge Radio, you are supporting this program. But if you would like to support this particular program, the War Report with yours truly, Olàyínká, please, at the bottom of your ticker, go to Cash App, $OBAGOD7. Once again, that is $OBAGOD7. If anybody has any comments, criticisms on the show, anything that they would like to see, or if anybody is interested in being a future guest of the War Report, you can email me directly at obayjumi_Olàyínká@yahoo.com. My name is right there on the bottom, my first and my last name with an underscore in between at yahoo.com. I'd like to thank my brother behind the boards, the CEO, founder of this great, wonderful platform known as Due to Knowledge Radio, the place where knowledge is born, the one and only knowledge born alive, for making this happen, making this, you know, he's the engine that runs this thing, and I thank him behind the boards, doing what he does, and continuing to support everything that the War Report stands for, and everything that this particular platform known as Due to Knowledge Radio stands for, which, you know, he created. And I thank him for, you know, just, what he does. And we will be back next week. Matter of fact, I will announce that next week our guest will be young African warrior scholar and intellectual himself, Brother Omawale Africa. Last week he was supposed to be the guest, but our communications got screwed up and tied up, and he forgot that he completely scheduled to be on the show last week. So we are going to have him on the show for next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Due to Knowledge Radio. Our guest, once again, will be Brother Omawale Africa, and we're looking forward to having him as our guest next week. So until then, as we always say, a Bibi Forie, a Bibi Tumi, Kujitiwala, Odabo. We will see you next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Same black station, same black channel. Right here for another edition of the War Report with yours truly, Olàyínká. Till then, peace and black power.